Robert Browning, My Last Duchess, an analytical exploration. Robert Browning's My Last Duchess is a quintessential example of the dramatic monologue, a form that he perfected. The poem, first published in 1842 as part of his collection Dramatic Lyrics, features a chilling portrait of a domineering aristocrat and provides a sharp critique of power dynamics, gender roles, and human psychology. Through its rich use of language and subtle nuances, My Last Duchess reveals the darker aspects of art, control, and social hierarchy. My Last Duchess is a dramatic monologue, a genre in which a single speaker reveals their thoughts and emotions while addressing a silent listener. Browning's mastery of this form allows the speaker's words to inadvertently reveal more than intended, exposing deep layers of his psyche. The setting of the poem is the Duke's palace, specifically in front of a portrait of his last Duchess. This spatial framing sets the stage for the reader to understand the Duke's relationship with his former wife as one of possession and objectification. The Duke describes the painting as though it captures not just her likeness, but also her spirit.
"That's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive."
The Duke's reference to My Last Duchess immediately establishes a sense of ownership and disposability, hinting at the fact that this is one in a series of wives he has had or might have in the future. His control over her image mirrors his desire to control her in life. He treats the painting as an artifact of his dominion, a piece of art that can be exhibited or hidden at his will. This becomes clear when he mentions that the curtain before the painting is something only he can draw.
"Since none puts by, the curtain I have drawn for you, but I..."
The Duchess, now deceased, is further objectified in death, reduced to an artifact under the Duke's total control. The Duke of Ferrara is a quintessential example of a character whose words reveal more about himself than he likely intends. Through his speech, Browning crafts a portrait of a man who is not only deeply arrogant, but also disturbingly controlling and possessive. His calm, conversational tone belies the sinister undertones of his speech. His complaints about the Duchess, which seem trivial on the surface, reveal a desire for absolute control over her affections and behavior. For instance, the Duke complains that the Duchess was too easily pleased, that her smile was not reserved for him alone.
"She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad, too easily impressed. She liked whate'er she looked on, and her looks went everywhere."
His irritation at her ability to find joy in simple things, the bough of cherries, the white mule, shows his need for exclusive devotion. The Duke cannot tolerate the idea that the Duchess might derive happiness from anything other than himself, suggesting a deeply narcissistic personality. The Duchess, though central to the poem, remains a passive, silent figure. We know her only through the Duke's biased and controlling perspective. Browning masterfully uses this silence to emphasize the imbalance of power between the Duke and his Duchess. Her lack of a voice mirrors her lack of agency, both in life and in death. Her alleged faults, as described by the Duke, being kind, warm, and appreciative of beauty, contrast sharply with his cold, authoritarian demeanor. Her refusal to conform to his rigid expectations of behavior ultimately leads to her downfall. Though the Duke never explicitly states how she died, his remarks strongly imply that he ordered her death.
I gave commands and then all smiles stopped together.
The abruptness of this statement, its chilling simplicity, underscores the Duke's absolute authority and his remorseless nature. His former wife's life was just as easily disposed of as her portrait can now be displayed or hidden. Robert Browning uses the Duke's interaction with art, the painting of the Duchess and the bronze sculpture of Neptune mentioned at the poem's conclusion, as a metaphor for his need for control. The Duke views both art and his wife as objects to be possessed, admired, and ultimately controlled. His pride in the painting is not in the artist's skill or the Duchess's beauty, but in his ability to control how the Duchess is remembered and who gets to view her image. The Duke's control over art reflects his desire for total control over life itself, over people and relationships. When the Duke transitions from talking about the painting to discussing the dowry negotiations for his next marriage, the commodification of human relationships becomes starkly apparent. For the Duke, marriage is transactional, and his future wife is as much an object of possession as the artwork that adorns his walls.
Though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, is my object.
Here, Browning masterfully links the themes of power, control, and dehumanization, illustrating how the Duke reduces people, particularly women, to mere objects within his realm. The listener in the poem is an emissary sent to negotiate the Duke's next marriage. Though the emissary remains silent, his presence is crucial. The Duke's calm and almost boastful tone suggests that he does not expect the emissary to be shocked or repulsed by his actions. This implies that the Duke's behavior may be a product of a society that enables and normalizes such abuses of power. The poem raises unsettling questions about the complicity of others in the Duke's tyranny and about the nature of a society that allows such cruelty to go unchecked. The central themes of My Last Duchess revolve around power, gender, and moral decay. The Duke's tyranny is not only a personal flaw, but a reflection of the broader societal structures that allow men of wealth and status to exert control over women and treat them as property. The Duchess's kindness, her joy in life, and her independence are viewed as weaknesses in a world where submission and obedience are valued above all else. Furthermore, Browning's poem critiques the idea of moral superiority linked to social status. The Duke, despite his refined manners and aristocratic position, is revealed to be morally corrupt and emotionally stunted. His inability to recognize the value of genuine human connection underscores the poem's exploration of the dangers of unchecked power and egotism. My Last Duchess is a profound exploration of power, control, and the objectification of women in a patriarchal society. Through the Duke's monologue, Browning exposes the disturbing psychology of a man who equates love with ownership and values dominance over affection. The Duke's calm detachment as he recounts his wife's demise adds to the chilling effect of the poem, making it one of Browning's most enduring and unsettling works. By blending psychological insight with a critique of societal norms, Browning uses My Last Duchess to question the ethical implications of power and privilege, leaving readers to grapple with the disturbing implications of the Duke's worldview.